Hi, I'm Ryan CRC. Florida recently passed the Parental Rights in Education bill, also known as the Don't Say Gay bill. Now, there's been a lot of talk and controversy surrounding this law, and I would like to discuss what it actually means and how it impacts the LGBT community. The law says elementary schools can't teach students about sexual orientation or gender identity between kindergarten and the third grade. Or, and I quote, in a manner that is not age appropriate or developmentally appropriate for students, end quote. Which means that the law could extend to 4th and 5th graders as well. The Republicans who proposed this law and supported it claim they want to take sexual education out of the hands of school systems and put it back into the hands of parents. But as usual, conservatives are simply hiding behind the banner of freedom, using it as a pretense to make themselves look good and cover up the ugliness of their actions. Really, they only want freedom for themselves, so they can oppress the LGBT community while still sounding patriotic at the same time. But make no mistake about it, what this bill really does is discriminate against gay and transgender people. And Florida isn't the only state doing this. Many other states are looking to pass legislation that would also discriminate against the LGBTQ community. Here are some reasons why this bill is so disgusting. The vagueness of its language leaves the door wide open for bigoted parents to sue schools and get teachers fired who are discussing sexual orientation or transgenderism in their classrooms. Let's say little Timmy hears the word transgender and asks his teacher what the word means, and she explains that transgenderism is when a boy identifies as a girl or when a girl identifies as a boy. Well, then Timmy goes home and tells his conservative parents what he learned today at school. Their ignorant little heads explode and they sue the school under this hateful law. Or imagine children are learning proper paragraph structure in their English class, and when they open their textbooks, they read an example paragraph in which a child has two mommies. Little Sally raises her hand and asks her teacher, how can a child have two mommies? The teacher simply explains that sometimes a mommy and a daddy take care of a kid, other times two mommies or two daddies raise a child. When Sally's parents check her homework later that evening and discover what she learned in school, their delicate sensibilities are shattered. They are so triggered, they not only take aim at the school for using such a textbook, but they also push to get the teacher fired for explaining to Sally about gay parents. So instead of normalizing homosexuality and transgenderism, like a civilized society would do, under this law, school systems are made to shy away from the subject and thereby further perpetuate the stigma attached to homosexuality and transgenderism. If a teacher is asked about these subjects, but she tells her students that she's not allowed to talk about them, she is adding to the taboo surrounding these topics. Even if she doesn't want to further ostracize gay and transgender people, this law forces her to do so lest she run the risk of losing her job. Schools are meant to enlighten children, not keep them in the dark in order to placate their conservative parents because they happen to be ignorant bigots who don't understand the world. A school should be a place where children can learn and outgrow their parents' small-minded prejudices. Many of the people who support this bill are religious fanatics who teach their children that an invisible man in the sky with magical powers impregnated a young virgin girl, so she would give birth to his son, just so he could sacrifice that boy years later. Because even though he's omniscient, Apparently, the only way this being could think to express and show his love for humanity was to murder his only begotten son. Yet these same conservatives don't think that a teacher should be allowed to tell children sometimes men love other men and women love other women, because they have hormonal differences that compel them to be attracted to the same sex instead of the opposite sex. But that does not make them lesser human beings, just like left-handed people are not lesser human beings just because they happen to be different from the majority. Clearly, these legislators and the voters who support this bigoted bill don't actually care about the moral development of their children, when they would rather teach their kids that a father murdering his own son is an act of love. But two people who happen to be of the same sex spending their lives together is perverse. They are just bigots, passing a law so they can discriminate against gay and transgender people. Some of these conservatives are the same people who teach their children that a talking snake somehow convinced Adam and Eve to eat a magical fruit that imbued them with the knowledge of right and wrong, at which time they became aware that their natural, God-given bodies were shameful. Yet they don't want teachers explaining to their students that everyone is a combination of both male and female because we have the same brains. Yet how our physical bodies develop and how we feel about our gender are controlled by different parts of our brains. Sometimes a person may develop the body of a boy even though they feel like a girl on the inside. Or they may feel like a boy even though they have the body of a girl. But just because someone's gender identity does not match their biological sex does not make them lesser human beings. Just like people with blonde hair and blue eyes, or red hair and green eyes, are not lesser human beings just because they happen to be statistical minorities. Obviously, these lawmakers and their supporters don't actually care about the psychological development of children. Because instead of teaching kids the truth, which is that gay people and transgender people are real human beings who have actually existed in many different cultures all throughout history without harming anyone, they would rather teach their children fairy tales about talking animals and magical fruit that we can prove are not true. You cannot claim to care about a child's psychological development when you refuse to teach them how to separate fantasy from reality. They are homophobes and transphobes who want to keep their children from learning the truth so they can indoctrinate their kids with the same prejudices they feel. And enforcing this law will help them do just that. These conservatives don't care about giving parents the right to teach their children about sex at an appropriate age for the good of their own sexual health. When their children get older, many of the conservative parents who support this bill are going to brainwash their children to believe that if they touch themselves or have sex before marriage, some cosmic boogeyman is going to torture their souls in a pit of fire for all eternity. You can't pretend to care about your child's sexual well-being when you teach them that the perfectly healthy act of masturbation or the perfectly reasonable act of premarital sex are one-way tickets straight to hell. Abusing children with lies, shame, guilt, self-loathing, and threats of eternal damnation is not appropriate at any age. If these lawmakers really cared about the sociological development of the children, they would want schools to teach kids to be more inclusive instead of exclusive, and to treat others the way they want to be treated. This bill is about prejudice against the LGBTQ community, plain and simple. I hope people come to their senses and vote these conservative bigots out of office so the law can be repealed. That way we can move forward, normalize these issues, and members of the gay and transgender community will no longer be swept under the rug like dirty little secrets. I hope this video has shed some light on the true nature and destructive power of this prejudicial law and how it can hurt schools, teachers, our society as a whole, and of course the LGBT community. If you'd like to learn more about homosexuality and transgenderism, please check out my book from Amazon.com called Gay is Okay, Why Homosexuality is Natural and Not Sinful. It's available on both paperback and ebook formats. And please follow me on social media such as Instagram and Facebook. And like this video and subscribe to my channel. I will put a link to this book down below in the description. And until next time, I'm Ryan CRC.